Welcome to the Buick Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon Marion, and on this podcast, we dive deep into the outdoors. We discuss hunting and fishing techniques, give you tips and tricks, tell stories, and everything in between to help you enjoy the outdoors. This podcast is brought to you by Northbound Gear. Northbound Gear is designed for maneuverability and durability and is made to last through even the toughest of elements. My go-to for their pants is the water resistance adventure pants and their lined waterproof jeans. I've worn them while out ice fishing, crawling through the woods bear hunting, and on the west coast out on the boat. And I even wear them around when I'm having a lazy day at the house. They are that comfortable. They also offer jackets, summer pants, backpacks, and many more. Men's and women's sizes are available, and by partnering with One Tree Planted, you're planting a tree with every purchase. Check them out for yourself at northboundgear.co, and when you use my promo code Sheldon15 at checkout, you'll receive 15% off your order. That's northboundgear.co and promo code Sheldon15. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Buick Outdoors podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon Marion, and the other day I was roaming around on the internet and I seen somebody ask a question, and I thought at first it was a pretty straightforward question, but turns out it's not. The question was, if you had to pick one rifle, one caliber, and one bullet to hunt with for the rest of your life, what would it be? And at first, I thought it was going to be an easy, quick, it'd be this. But then I kind of started thinking, and man, it is a loaded question. And I think, right off the hop, to simplify it, just cut out, small game hunting and like Africa game, and just think like North America big game. And even when you narrow it down to that, it's still such a huge broad spectrum, because you got to think we can hunt whitetail deer, mule deer, black bear, sort of grizzly, we got moose, elk, antelope, goats, sheep, and it's almost kind of hard, because there's certain calibers and guns and bullets that are made for certain things, and if you had to basically use just one for everything, you'd be cutting hairs at the end. Starting things off, one rifle. I would honestly shy away from any like the newer-ish rifles, and I would look more towards like the ones that have been around forever. You got the Brownings, Rugers, Seikos, Remingtons, Weatherby, and they all have their pros and cons, and different configurations, barrel lengths, magazines, muzzle brakes, stocks, and all that stuff. And as much as I love things like wood stocks, I would almost lean towards more like a synthetic stock, just for all around usage of it. Depending on where you're hunting at, if you're on like Vancouver Island where it rains constantly, you're not going to want a wood stock. And if you're out in, the mountains or something like that, maybe synthetic's the way to go. They can be a little bit lighter, but then with that too, you don't want an extremely light gun, because then if you're using a bigger caliber for something like a moose, you don't want a 5 or 6 pound mountain rifle. You want something with a little bit of weight to it. And there's so much that goes into this. And when it comes to the rifle, man, it's a tough one for me, because I really like Seikos, but I've never owned one myself. From everybody that I've talked to though that has them, the Seikos are kind of the go-to. For me myself though, I've had extremely good luck with Rugers. My Weatherby, it's been a great gun. The Weatherby Mark V that my dad had, it was a great gun until a piece of sand kind of got into the chamber and he wasn't able to cycle around. Now that has only happened once, But if we're doing this whole what if scenario thing where you can only choose one gun for the rest of your life, that would honestly take it out of the running. Um, Remington, back in the day, maybe 20 years ago, absolutely, it'd be a runner up. Nowadays, a Remington 700 is as good as a crowbar to me. I have no use for that whatsoever. Uh, a while ago, though, the Remington 700, that was by far the top tier number one rifle around. Uh, so for me, I think for the rifle itself, it either have to be like a Seiko 85 or maybe probably a Ruger M77. I have two of them now. I think I've owned three in my lifetime, and they're one of those guns that just keeps on going. Uh, no, I've had four of them now. Yeah, because I got the 22 Magnum. But yeah, like, the Ruger M77 Hawkeye, it's just a plain Jane rifle. It's not a detachable magazine. It's just the hinge floor plate. Holds 3 rounds. I got one that's a wood stock, two that are synthetic. The first one that I had was synthetic, but that was it was one of the feather light ones, and I wouldn't own one of those again. That one was a little brutal. That one kicked pretty hard because it was such a light rifle. But the Ruger M77 Hawkeye, you know what? It's a really, really hard one to beat. So I think that would be the rifle that I'd go with, and it would just be the plain Jane, run of the mill, 24-inch barrel, uh, blued or stainless. I don't think it really matters, and probably just the black synthetic stock. Much like how my 300 wood mag is set up. Uh, and I only would go with the synthetic just because this is, one for the rest of your life kind of a thing. And who knows, if I'm, like I said, on Vancouver Island hunting black-tailed deer where you're going to be getting rain for, like, it sounds kind of funny, but like 8 of the 7 days that you're hunting because it rains so much, you really don't want a wood stock there. It's going to absorb all that water and it's going to swell up and potentially break. And it's just, for the whole scenario that we're running here, it would have to be just a regular old black synthetic stock. Uh, when it comes to scopes, honestly, it's what I'm running right now on almost all of my go-to guns. It's just a Leupold. Whether it's I guess it'd be Freedom now. Used to be a Rifleman, now it's a Freedom, or a VX1, 2, or 3, one of them, and just a regular 3 to 9 by 40. That is a very, very easy one to answer because it's what I have on my guns right now. You can make the argument that one of the 5 to 25 by 40s or 5 to 25 by 50s or something like that might be a little bit better, but honestly, I'm not into long range shooting anymore. And, the 25 power scope, I just, yeah, you don't need it. It's cool to be able to reach out and touch something and to zoom just right in on them, kind of a thing. But, if this scenario is just one gun, one caliber, one bullet, one setup for everything, a 3 to 9 by 40 covers everything. And if that animal is too far to see in a 3 to 9 by 40, you're most likely too far to be shooting that far anyways. Get closer. Hunt the animal. But, yeah, so I think the rifle would be Ruger M77 Hawkeye, scope, Leupold, Freedom, or, I guess if we're not really worried about spending money, maybe one of the VX3s or something like that. A slightly better build quality kind of a thing, but I don't know. It'd be fine. But even with that, if it was a Leupold Vortex, maybe Swarovski. I don't know. I'm not big into Swarovski. I think they're just extremely overpriced for what you get, and like they are amazing optics, but I can't justify the price tag that they want on them. But yeah, I think Leopold Freedom or VX1, 2, or 3, that's all you need. 39 by 40. You can hunt anything anywhere in the world basically with a 3 to 9 by 40. When it comes to caliber though, that's where things start to get tricky. You can pick your favorite gun, your favorite scope. It's very easy. A plain Jane rifle, that's not gonna, you know, jam up, swell, and break or whatever. And it's easy to maneuver, and it's not extremely light, and it's not extremely heavy. You know, that part's easy. A scope, one that kind of just does everything like a 3 to 9 by 40, easy. Caliber, oh boy, this is where you start cutting hairs. And especially nowadays with all these new calibers that are coming out and a bunch of oddballs and stuff, you have to kind of almost break it into like three categories. You have like your small calibers, your mediums, and then your larges. And your small ones, they can work on the larger animals, but you're running into a lot of issues. And then your large calibers, it will work on a small critter, but the problem is if you shoot, say, white-tailed deer with a 378 Weatherby, honestly, shoot it in the foot because you might have something left. If you punch it between the lungs there, behind the shoulder, man, I don't know if there's gonna be much left of that deer. Uh, but then also, that being said, take, I don't know, say a 223. Shoot a deer with it, it's a great round. Shoot a moose with it, uh, it can be done, especially if you kind of whisper it behind the ear. Uh, then it works pretty good. But to take a lung shot on a moose with the 223, you're not gonna have a good time. Same thing with like bears. Uh, in fact, the biggest bear that I've killed was with a 223 with a varmint bullet. But certain circumstances, that bear was 30 feet up in a tree and I shot him in the neck. And when that bullet did what it's supposed to do, which is just fragment, it did just knock everything out of his neck. So there was that. And then also he came 30 feet out of a tree and hit the ground. So if the shot didn't kill him, if the fragmentation in his neck didn't kill him, falling 30 feet and landing on your head definitely did. Uh, but with that being said, that's not a everyday shot kind of thing that you're going to be taking. So when it comes to your calibers, the smaller ones like your 223, 22, 250, 7mm 08, even like 308 and 338 Federal. The 308 and 338 Federal, they're kind of small getting into that medium side. Uh, just because, mainly because they're 30 caliber and you get big bullets for it. Plus, there's a lot of people that use them for moose, and they have incredible success with them. But then you have all these oddball calibers and the new calibers like the 350 Bushmaster, there's the 450 Bushmaster, 300 Blackout, the new 6.5s. You have some of the older ones like a 6.5 by 55 Swedish. They work great for the majority of animals, but if this is going to be one caliber that you use for everything North America wide kind of a thing, they're just too small. However, the 308 and maybe 338 Federal, it has that one little notch up on the rest of the small calibers, just because of the bullet size and the variety of bullet weights that you can get off of them. Now going into like the medium calibers, basically it's like the old school go-to rounds. You have like your 30-30, 270, 280, 25-06, 7mm, uh, sorta 300 Win Mag. A 300, it's kind of medium getting into the large ones. But, with those ones, they've been around for decades, and everyone, including their grandparents, have all owned something in that range of like the 30-06, 270, or man, not so much 280, and like 7mm. With me though, when it comes to 7mm, and you might get a little flack for this, I don't like it at all. It's a great round for things like deer, antelope, but moose, elk, and bears, I have no desire whatsoever to ever shoot another animal with a 7mm. I've had two of them now, and the first one I got rid of it because I wounded too many moose, and thankfully at the time I was hunting with my dad, and he was able to put them in their place with the 300. Uh, I've had black bears just disappear after a double lung shot with them, and this is with proper shot placement, proper bullets, and it's just there's better calibers out there. There really is. Like the 7mm, it got to the point where I was just wasting my time and money trying all these different varieties of bullets and weights and all that stuff, and I couldn't come around to liking it. There is lots of people that completely swear by it, and like this conversation's over before it even starts with what caliber to choose. There's a lot of diehards out there that'll say 7mm, just cut and dry, leave it there. But for me, I'm leaning more towards the 30 calibers, uh, mainly because of your bullet selection. The 30-06, 308, maybe 338 federal. With that one though, you have to think about where you can find ammo. I highly doubt you can go into Walmart and pick up 338 federal bullets. Uh, or if there's some whatever little small town in the backwoods somewhere that has like a tiny little small hunting store there, they're most likely not going to have any oddball calibers or any like the semi oddball calibers like 338 federal. Uh, and when it comes to the smaller ish calibers like the 6.5s, that new 6.8, for me, I'm just not into it. I think the market for those is more or less uh, target shooting and long range shooting, and the marketing teams have done a great job saying that these are phenomenal hunting rounds, and I don't know, I don't see it. I think it's more or less like a phase that everybody's going through, and eventually it's not gonna die out, but it's definitely gonna slow down, I think. And the go to calibers are the ones that have been around forever. Uh, so like so far we got our neck down to pretty well 308, 30-06, 270, maybe 300. And I say maybe 300 because I shot a deer with it this fall, and it actually didn't do that much damage. But would you want to use it strictly as a deer gun? Probably not. Or an antelope or a goat or a sheep. Like it's just I don't know. It's pushing a little too much energy, I think. And then when it comes into like your big calibers, your ultra mags, pretty well any Weatherby round other than like 7mm and lower. But you got your 300 Weatherby, you got 338 Winchester, 300 Win Mag, any like safari rounds or calibers, they're too big. like I said at the beginning, there are certain calibers that are made for certain things, and basically once you get around like that 300, 338 size and up, it they're meant they're meant for one thing only. It's African game, maybe grizzly bear, and somebody with a big ego who shoot the moose. Other than that, we you really don't have any use for them. Like in this argument, I would love to have like, I don't know, a 458 just to have it. It would be kind of cool, and I would hunt bears with it. But I'm definitely not going to take it on a deer hunt. Uh, and it kind of brings us back down to like those medium size calibers, and when it comes to, you look at the ballistics of like a 308 and a 270, they're not. I mean, they're fairly similar and they're fairly close. Same with like the 30-06. 7mm, just get rid of that. And then, a 280, 25-06, they're great rounds too. Dad has a 25-06. It's his go-to moose gun. He used to pack his 280 a lot for moose, and I pack my 300 for moose. I used to pack a 7mm, but I just got rid of that. I traded it in on a 22, to be honest with you. But when it comes to calibers, I would honestly have to lean towards like a 30-06. Uh, the the bullet selection and the weights that you have is, it's a 30 caliber. Uh, you can go anywhere from, I'd have to double check, but like if you're hand loading and you're kind of crazy, you could do 80 grain bullets, and you can go all the way up to like, what is it, 220 grain bullets. So like the range of weights is huge, but if you just stuck to a 30-06 shooting, I don't know, maybe 160 on the light end or 180, 185 grain bullets. Honestly, if you're packing that in North America, I think you're set. You could go from Vancouver Island and shoot a Sitka deer up to the Yukon and shoot a giant bull moose, and then maybe somewhere on the coastline and shoot a grizzly bear if it's legal. But like a 30-06 with 180 grain bullets, you can go anywhere and shoot anything. You can shoot deer, elk, moose, black bear, grizzly bear, sheep, goat. Like, it is such a versatile round and caliber, and the amount of rifles that you can get it chambered in. You can go to Sportsman's Warehouse, Cabela's, Canadian Tire, Walmart, random store at like Moonshine Lake. You can find 30-06 bullets everywhere. So, it's a pretty hard one to beat, other than maybe 270. And also 308. The only thing with 308s, I like a slightly larger caliber. So the 308, just because it's just that little bit smaller than the 30-06 or 270, I think that's what kind of takes it out of the run. But yeah, if I had to pick caliber, it'd be the 30-06. So now that we have a Ruger M77 Hawkeye with a 3 to 9 by 40 scope with, chambered in a 30-06, now you got to think about bullets. And bullets are just like calibers, where certain bullets are made for certain things. You have like your varmint bullets, your cup and core bullets, your bonded bullets, your solid bullets. And, when it comes to things like, say, Federal Fusion, they're in my opinion, one of the best commercially available bullets that you can get. Now, they're not going to they're not gonna work like a nozzle partition because they're just built differently. But for like an all around good bullet, the fusions are pretty hard to beat, and you can find them everywhere. But you can say the same thing about nozzle Akubons. Nozzle Akubon and Federal Fusion, they're they're fairly similar in the way that they're built. But if you look at, say, nozzle partitions, that one is extremely hard to beat. Not only do you get rapid expansion, but you also get the bottom third of that bullet, how it's built, designed, and kind of cased inside. You get massive penetration, and it's been around. I, geez, I don't even know when it was built. Uh, Man, it's been like generations. It's been around for. With that being said, too, a lot of other bullet companies, they basically take what a nozzle partition is and just try to make their own version of it. So like the nozzle partition, man, it is a very very hard one to beat. But then there's also ones like terminal accent from Federal. That's what I'm shooting right now out of my 300, and boy, that one's another one that's gonna be hard to beat. The way it opens up extremely quick, but then it holds its weight and you get massive penetration. And also, those ones, they kind of seem to be another one that's kind of available everywhere. Uh, yeah, but so are the Acubons and partitions. And then you have things like Barnes Triple Shock. They're all copper. They work extremely well on heavy hide animals, but when it comes to the smaller game, like your deer and antelope, I don't know. I shot a deer once with my 257 Weatherby, and I was shooting Barnes Triple Shock, and those bullets were phenomenal on elk and absolutely amazing on moose. But the deer, I think it was because the deer hide was so thin and that bullet is traveling so fast that when it hit, it just it made a pinhole. It didn't do like it obviously it opened up quite a bit and it did eventually do the job, but I don't think I've ever had anything actually hold one of those bullets in. It's always gone completely through, and the exit wounds are always they always seem kind of small, to be honest with you, for Barnes Triple Shock. But if I was gonna choose one for a real thick, heavy coated animal like a grizzly or black bear, I would 100% use them. Well, I'd use them again on a black bear. But for when it comes to deer, I don't know if I'd want to use a Barnes Triple Shock on deer. It works and it worked okay. It did put meat in the freezer. But when it comes to deer, something along the lines of like Acubons or Fusions is what I'd lean towards. However, with Acubons and Fusions, I don't I don't really like them on the thicker animals. When it comes to elk, no problem. Moose and bear, however, I want those semi-solid bullets. That's where nozzle partition and terminal ascent, they are kind of my go-to's now. Plus, I've also used them on deer-sized animals, and they worked flawlessly. So the way that when they hit, they open up extremely quick, and then the way that they're designed, they penetrate like crazy. And the fact that a good majority of bullets are designed off of the partition, I man, it's a hard one to beat. Terminal Ascent, they are a phenomenal bullet from what I've seen so far, but right now, I'm telling you, the nozzle partition, it's got to be the go-to. A lot of people, they like the burger and burger hybrids and all that stuff, but yeah, they're target rounds. Uh, Plus the burgers, they're to me they're like kind of like a dolled up varmint bullet. They go in, they explode, and there's nothing left of the bullet, and I don't like that at all. Uh, there's something about grenading a bullet inside of an animal. I Nah, it's not for me. I like just a good solid bullet that does its job day in, day out, and there's never any, uh, you're not questioning your bullet. If you bring up the topic of bullets with other hunters, basically the same three come up. You got, well, maybe two, and it's typically Nosler partition, Nosler Accubons. Those two will be discussed at least by 8 out of the 10 hunters that you're talking to. So for me, because I like the way that Nosler partitions work on the bigger game, I would have to say Nosler partition takes the cake. The Accumon, they are good, but the problem with the Accumon that I've had when you're shooting the larger game is that they don't go all the way through and you only get one hole. Or it goes all the way through, but it stops on the hide on the other end, and I like to have that exit just for better blood trailing, and also it's just, to me, it's just a better overall shot if it goes all the way through. They bleed out faster, you get a good blood trail, and your recovery rate is extremely high. So there you go. If I had to pick one gun, one caliber, one bullet, it would be a Ruger M77 Hawkeye with a Leupold 3 to 9 by 40, 24-inch barrel that's either blued or stainless. That part doesn't really matter to me. Be chambered in a 30-06, and I'd be shooting 180 grain Nosler partitions. But anyways, guys, if you're just listening to this and you want to watch the video version, head over to YouTube, check it out on there. Also, if you're listening to this, please leave me a review. Let me know how I'm doing. And if you could, head over to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're still trying to grow that up and trying to make this a full-time gig. But anyways, guys, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening. We'll see you out there. Catch you on the next one.